Okay, so as sophisticated people, you know that innovation plays a crucial role in driving growth and development in capital markets, right? It's not just a buzzword. It's a fundamental driver of progress and success in capital markets. And with some thought-provoking ideas on the topic, please welcome our next speaker, Chairman of the JSE, Julian Mair.
Good evening, all. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to another staging of our annual conference. It's become, a staple on the calendar of the industry, and that wasn't always the case, Once upon a time, we used to be competing with Euro money and Latin finance and everybody, and this is it. This is our staple. This is it. And Marlene, congrats to you, Neville and the team, in continuing to build this from strength to strength. So we do love that. So, look, the topic you heard Michael speak about, that's now what I'm speaking about. And if you've been here before, you'll know that that's a trend. We get these topics and they may or may not connect with me personally. And the only thing you can get is what connects at the time. So far, we've had Angus speak about regional markets. I appreciate that. Greg speak about international markets. The PM speak most directly about Jamaica and where we are at. None of those things, therefore, need to be covered in any real detail. What I think that I really want to talk about is the story. We sit here tonight, down the road, in Crossroads at the Caribbean. There's a Bob Marley movie, One Love, that's happening. And I love your attendance here. I know it means you were not invited. So I want to understand something about Bob Marley. Potentially the greatest musician ever. Musical artist, that is, ever. A son of the soil, a humble man, a man who sang and was heard across the world. Regardless of race, religion, creed, language, that didn't matter. If you're frequent to Jamaica, or if you are a Jamaican, you know that seeing a Japanese Rasta man or a German one is not something that is uncommon. His message permeated. And it's still being quoted right now by so many world leaders, including Babylon's own Myanmar, who regularly references Bob's words. This humble man caused the globe to need to understand his story. And people flew here, spent a lot of time and a lot of money, spoke to all the living that they could, went to the places that he lived to understand his story. And we have a reflection of it today. His family was a part of it, so let's expect that to the largest extent, it's a fairly accurate reflection. People will understand his story and what led to the man that we're still here celebrating. And I hope nobody thinks I'm rude, but Guardian Group. Shh. So, when I stood here, when I sat tonight and I listened to the comments being made about the growth of Jamaica, where we're positioned now on the rating scale, where we're positioned as far as growth, this is an amazing, amazing scenario. And I absolutely am blown away and so proud to be here this evening, to be a part of it. But none of us sing. Nobody jumped on a plane to come here to understand the complete story. And if you don't understand the complete story, then the chances are those countries who would want to emulate it are going to find themselves with insufficient information to do so. That's where it gets dangerous. So the humble man, Bob Marley, and we love humble. We absolutely regard that at a very high level. People must operate that way. Now I know, of course, standing on stage and saying whatever I want may not appear to be that guy. But nonetheless, those are the traits that we truly do hold in the highest regard. And this has led the story of the role of the capital markets in the Jamaican success story never to be told. And that's a dangerous reality. We do have our peers, and I know I mentioned Mair a while ago, a wonderful leader out of Barbados. She similarly would have considered restructuring. She would have grabbed the tools that appeared public, IMF, International Bank, she's good to go. This is how it works. The risk here is that the rest of the story was never told. And it's our duty to recognize when being humble is misplaced. When this is not a matter of being humble, when this is actually a necessity, when it is the Jamaican story is being told. So I want to share with you, what is that story? That story is one that has zero regard for race, ethnic background, political alignment. That story is the true Jamaican out of many one people story. It's one of the most beautiful stories you'll ever hear. I see our past FS here, and always a pleasure to see you, sir. And you, of course, can attest to all of the foolishness I'm about to say that's never been said. So, the Jamaican capital market has been a key partner from concept to growth. The Jamaican capital market saw that Jamaica could be better than it was a long time ago and would have played its role during a time when the government was competing with the central bank for funding. My first trade, and I'll age myself here, potentially the grade does it already, but my first trade was at 48.31% trade in GOJ debt. 48.31, I'll never forget it. That's your risk-free rate. Any corporates are above that. We knew we couldn't sustain that. That wasn't a good scenario. It was a competition of the capital markets democratizing access to these opportunities in investment that caused interest rates to move downwards. This is a part of the story. Part of the role of the capital markets in making efficient and less costly access to funding for the government and therefore the rest of the country. Of course, at that time, we'd have seen 40% and 30% interest rates being par for the course. All that money going out and the 25% withholding tax and never coming back to the country. It's the capital markets that would have designed a withholding tax at source because we weren't prescribed entities. We couldn't withhold. This mechanism caused money to go back into the government's coffers and stabilize our economy. And this is just about 2000. When we hit 2002 and we had run with it, fiscal got blown out, everybody thought Jamaica was now dead. The capital markets got together, along with other players in the sector, across the economy, created Partnership for Progress. And if you weren't a part of it, you don't know the name, because it was never publicized. But it was one of the largest groupings of diverse industries ever to sit in a room together. And they sat down and decided, we all sat down and decided, what we would give up for the potential of the Jamaica that we know can occur. Because we talk so much, in this case, a presentation was made at a conference in Miami, and somebody went and told him about Partnership for Progress. The market said, are these people crazy? Capitalists are going to backstop the government who seems intent to fail. all of a sudden, interest rates went from early 2003, interest rates jumped from 14% to 28% overnight. That's February. We can never forget that. Immediately following that, we went back down interest rates. Again, a capital market solution you may never know, and this of course taught everybody, don't sell your plan before you get the buy-in on it, right? So the plan when it got the buy-in was your 2013 version with the establishment of EPOC. And one of the things that you look at when you look at the 2019 study from the IMF on Jamaica, it said Jamaica, the power of partnership and ownership. Very central to that paper is the fact that Jamaica, across the board, we own the plan. And this is what transpires to the successful plan that we experienced. So I know I started off about Bob. And again, I know I also said that you guys can't sing. But I know I can't sing. But across the room here, we have people that dedicate to their intellectual capacity and also their capital to create the Jamaica that we now speak about. And it's important that we talk about it and document it, because just like Barbados thinking that they could replicate maybe our successes, there are at least 20 other countries across the world that are looking at this Jamaican success story. As Financial Times said it, everybody was betting on us to fail. People still don't know why we didn't. Because we didn't tell the story. As a country, as a nation, you have to own your success. And you have to sit down, because you know it better than anybody else, and said, these are how the pieces fit together in my scenario, and with this, we'll be able to do it in a sustainable way. From concept to growth, it was a wild concept that beyond political parties who look on a 4-year cycle, that we as a private sector could play a role in centering fiscal responsibility. We could play a role in making Jamaica move to a more stable place where Vision 2030 is not just words, but something that we believe that we can actually attain. And we have heroes in this crowd. Again, you're not singers, we're not going to look for you. But you dedicated your time, you dedicated your expertise, and you dedicated your capital, and you did some amazing work. And I do want to applaud the members of the capital markets of Jamaica as being a central part in our success. We go beyond that. And I know the PM has spoken and they're still serving drinks outside, so we're about to get there. 2008, the world fell apart. Fell apart. People sold what they could sell. I'm not selling your credit because I don't like it. I'm selling it because I have a problem with this other credit and nobody wants it. So I'm selling yours because I need the liquidity. I need to solve margin calls. I need to reduce correlated risk. I need to do all of these things. This was 2008. Jamaican bonds started gapping. Moved from 120 thereabouts down to par. By the time we checked it out, a few months in, we were at maybe 60 cents on the dollar, people testing the market for a bid. Wanted to know if there's a price at which I can move 5 million bonds. That gapping, as much as trades were limited, that gapping represented the value that each institution holding those bonds would have to hold it on their balance sheet. As an economy, we were wiped out. As far as a sector, we were wiped out. The capital wasn't there. So much bonds are sitting in Jamaica, and they just lost 50% of the value. Billions of US dollars. So not that they actually went insolvent, but the fact is capital would have been so constrained that the financial sector wouldn't have the capital to be able to continue to provide credit to the country. The financial sector, the small component called the capital markets, the grouping called the GSDA, sat down. We crafted probably what for me is maybe the greatest trade ever done in EN. We created a trade called a short squeeze, where anybody on Wall Street that lent money against GOJ bonds, any bond sitting on a margin account that could be lent out to people who may want to sell it to create CDSs or anything else, anybody who is fueling this ratcheting down because we knew it wasn't the local selling, we said, you know what, move the bonds back to an account that doesn't provide the ability for the security to be lent. And therefore, anybody who would have sold had to now buy them back to deliver them. We didn't have the liquidity in the country to defend our curve. We caused the rest of the international market to defend it for us. And they delivered the entire portfolio of GOJs held by Jamaicans, institutions, into the central bank's account, who provided us the funding to support it. Some people thought it was a bailout by the central bank because subsequent governors may have misrepresented it. It was a cauterization of the ability of anybody internationally to short our bonds. For sure, the greatest trade ever. The minute the bond trade was done, Jamaica decoupled from the rest of the EM curve. Greg can attest. I know you said you're not a trader, you didn't get burned. But people on the street, I'm sure, cussing. So immediately, our bond prices hit the floor and ratcheted right back up to a level that was comparable to where it was trading before. A little inside of it, of course, for the risk premium that would now have been associated. But nonetheless, complete decoupling from the rest of emerging market bonds. This is the private sector, the capital markets, the security dealers. This is who is sitting in the crowd. And this is also working with the central bank. So again, working together collaboratively to create from concept to growth. Because for sure, the outcome of 2008 would have hurt a lot more if the financial sector didn't have the capital to recover. We move on, 2010, the industry would have sat down and worked out a JDX, a debt exchange. We knew the situation wasn't sustainable. There's no way, the government couldn't carry this. Again, we've shown consistency. If we have a bad credit as a government, we have a bad economy. That's more risk than any of us want. So the industry designed a debt exchange. Executed, yes, by an international bank, but designed here very much by the players who understood how each of those pricings would impact us and how we could actually manage it and ensure that international markets didn't get defaulted on, because if it did, the country would have lost access to capital that was necessary. That would have started the positive trajectory of the country as far as the fiscal goes. We would have supported again on the NDX to try and make that one work. What I want to tell you, and the big message here, because all of this is news, unless you are at the table. And those at the table, again, I've seen a number of you tonight, and it's always my pleasure to see you. But you know you can't sing. Nobody's coming here to go and find out your story. So at the moment, I will do the singing for you. The work is not done. The Prime Minister made a statement that our recovery is still fragile. We still have a critical role to play. We understand the moving parts better than any other, including the best intended IMF experts. It is our duty to continue to ensure that whatever program is engaged in is one that will work for our people. And that is a massive mandate that we must never put down. This story of recovery is one that should not, firstly, ever be given a chance to go in the wrong direction. We own it. We bought it with our capital. We bought it with our expertise. And we want to ensure that it continues into the future so that, as the Prime Minister said, we can build an economy that helps to uplift all. I do want you to understand that none of this is easy. This sort of work may take you years. It may take you into meetings where people don't want to meet with you. They already have preconceived notions of what you're thinking about. But it's very much the same as when you get into the corporate. So I want us to be true. True with the challenges so we can solve them. And let's be very true and honest when it is that we're supporting entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs, be true and honest when you're talking to those that see you as role models. Let them know it's hard. Let them know that there are many, many changes that need to occur. That the vision you may have had as to where you're going, guess what? You got there, but you didn't take the same road you had planned the entire way. Being honest with the challenges. Being honest with the fact that you have to be nimble. Your mind must be open to the possibilities. And you alter your course where needed to ensure that you get to where it is that you're going. That will help to ensure that we can continue to be as relevant to the entrepreneurs of tomorrow as we've been of the entrepreneurs of the past. And it will ensure that this capital markets conference, its 19th year, will be strong in its 20th and beyond. So everybody, I know drinks are being served. They shouldn't do that. They should cause everybody to come inside first, right? So they shouldn't do that. But anyway, drinks are being served, and I believe this may be the wrap-up, but I will pass over to Michael Anthony Cuff. I welcome you again to the 19th Annual Conference of the JSC.